coming across Asia in our church planting efforts.
If you're looking in Bible schools,
come and study here.
There's so much fun stuff to do here.
We're not just sitting in class.
You get to experience outreaches for hands-on kind of thing.
If you want to be a good leader,
BBC Thailand will help you to expect great things from God.
And I guarantee you guys will not regret coming at all.
Planting a church can seem pretty intimidating, but we're talking to the professionals here today, guys that have planted churches and doing it successfully. And so let's start with Pastor Peter from Pakistan and give us some of the keys to planting a church.
Yes, if you want to extend your work, you need leaders. Otherwise, I think as a family cannot survive without having children.
Yes.
There will be no more name. So if you don't raise the leaders, there will be no work, no name.
That important.
So it is very necessary that God have called you. He has given you mandate, and you have apostolic anointing on you. So it is very necessary for a leader to reproduce a leader like him. Otherwise, you will have always you will be in problem always, because if you don't raise the leaders like you do not produce people like you will have to choose or adapt other people. They will be giving you trouble all the time.
Yes.
But if you produce leader from your own ministry, there will be always a helping hand for you.
And John, how I mean, you've got some good leaders gathered around. You said, you know, when you first started in the ministry in the middle of the Cyclone Nargis cleanup there, you had a group of how many guys with you, and then pretty soon they started to leave because it was difficult. But you end up with the best, don't you? You end up with the guys that have a real heart. And so tell us about how you feel and what's your plan for producing leaders.
You know, at first, you know, we have a team like 50 members, you know. I thought it is a strong team, you know.
Yeah.
When we see the difficult thing, you know, difficult barrier and the situation, so some leaders left or from our team, you know. So a few people left over in our team. So I feel really, you know, different people have different commitment. And for different people have different willingness for his kingdom expand. So I remember, you know, in Matthew 9:37, 38, you know, the harvest truly is plentiful, the laborers are few. Therefore, just see the first thing, pray.
Yeah.
The pray is the first come, and then to send out, you know, the laborer into the harvest.
Right.
So we have to pray first and then see what. Who or she we are going to raise the leader. It's very important. We have to take the time also, though, you know. If you want to see the victory and growth, so you have to have the leaders around you. Even you know, not only, you know, in around the world, but also in Myanmar or Pakistan or Philippines or Thai, you know, you cannot go, you cannot handle alone. You have to raise up the leaders, many leaders, you know.
Every leader that we can reproduce ourselves into, this potential for another church or another ministry or another something to happen. And I know there's a lot of people that think that it's important to raise up leaders, but we know that if we don't do that, we're stopped dead in our tracks. It is so very, very important. And without raising up leaders, you're just not going to go anywhere. And what I find a real frustration, you know, in a lot of guys, like people will come and ask me, other leaders will come and say, well, Al, where do you get all of the good leaders from? I can't find any good leaders, or where, you know. And like one guy came and said, you know, where do you get all the spiritual sons and daughters from? There's just nobody in my church that's like a spiritual son or daughter. And I just flatly say, well, it's because you're not a father. You know, if you really are a leader, what are you going to reproduce? Everything reproduces after its own kind. And we're pretty adamant about this, but it's because we see the success of the ministry in this. And I know, Rich, you've had a lot of experience with this. You're going through an explosive growth situation where all of a sudden, I mean, that first church plant in Manila with 450 people on the first Sunday and 0 leaders except for the guys that were staying in your own house, and they're not going to be able to run 450 member church. And so all of a sudden you've got all these people who want to do something. And I remember that sermon you preached. Your destiny is here, You will meet your destiny. You'll be fulfilled here. And a tremendous altar call. I think all 450 people came to the altar that Sunday and ready to do something for God. Well, how do you take them from there to, now like 8 years later or whatever, you're starting to get a well-running oiled machine in the Philippines there.
Yeah, it's line upon line, precept upon precept, really starting guys from the basic things, just training them, mentoring them, loving them, carrying them, and encouraging them, then watching their lives. And you got to bring correction as well sometimes, bring correction to their lives. And like John said, some of them will fall out and then some will pay the price and go on. Yeah. But if you don't raise up leaders, you can forget about growth.
Yeah.
Just forget about it. Somewhere I heard that there was a statistic that said that some crazy number, like 90% of all the churches in the world are 60 people and less. Well, why is that? That's because one guy can handle about 60 people.
Right.
That's as far as you're going with one guy. And so if you want to stay at that number, then it's just one guy.
Yeah.
But if you want to go anywhere beyond that number, you have got to raise up people. And it's not an easy process, and it's not an instant process. And you said earlier, some people are complaining, well, where are the leaders going to come from? Well, they're not going to drop out of the sky.
That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
You've got to invest your life in people.
Yeah.
You've got to take the time, train them, mentor them, encourage them, pray for them, talk to them, walk with them. And as you do that, then you'll get guys like Pastor Peter was talking about. You get some sons and daughters who will follow you to the ends of the earth.
Yeah.
And those are the guys that you want. And those are the guys that are going to do great things.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And I think for other leaders that are watching the program today and saying, well, what practical things can we do to see raising up leaders? And of course, we've been talking about recognizing potential in people, and that's one thing we have to do. And I find that difficult for many pastors, is to recognize potential. But I think it comes down to a place of humility, doesn't it? Where this is not about me.
Yeah.
I don't have to be the kingpin here. And I want to not only make room for other guys, but have a place for them to fulfill their destiny. And so I think really it takes tremendous humility, first of all, to be able to recognize the potential leaders. And then secondly, we've got to put the systems in place.
Yeah.
And to me, I mean, leadership meetings.
Yeah.
If you have an opportunity, I mean, and this is good advice, guys. If you want leaders, make an opportunity for them to come in. Announce a leadership meeting on Wednesday evening, and see who shows up. Because there is a lot of potential all around us all the time. And, I mean, I know you guys feel like this too, and I'm thinking all the time I'm looking over our congregation and saying, what am I missing here? There's got to be more people that have more potential. And at least 10% are called into full-time ministry out of any congregation. There would be a tithe, wouldn't it? That would be the way God would do it, wouldn't it be? And He needs that. But every person that we look at in our day-to-day, weekly ministry, we're looking at people with potential to be great leaders.
Yeah.
Well, I want you to just relax for a few minutes, and I want to welcome you to Thailand and to Victory Bible College International. And we like to start each year with each student off with a clean slate as far as emotional and spiritual health goes. So we're going to open a new file for you today. And the first question is, what is your greatest fear?
My greatest fear is going to new places. I'm afraid that there's going to be lots of new food that I don't like, and that I don't know people, and that there would be people that I don't know, and lots of people, and like traveling for a long time.
You have got to be kidding me. What do you think this is? Some kind of a flower garden? You pansy!
Victory Bible College International Thailand. Get your application online at victoryasia.com.
Hi, my name is Tom Schumacher. I'm the Dean here at Victory Bible College International here in Sirajah, Thailand.
And I just want to invite you to come to this school. Many of you out there watching this program, you know you have leadership potential. We believe at this school we have the academics, we have the discipline that can put that leadership into your life, get you to the place that you need to be. This school has built many leaders in different parts of Asia. You can be one of those future leaders. Just go to the website, victoryasia.com or continuummedia.com. Download the application, fill it out, send it here. We'll build you into the leader you need to be.
Rich, I got a hard question to ask you concerning raising leaders, and I think this is one that's on many people's minds, and that is when you've got, as a leader, say you're the pastor of a church or whatever, and you've got guys that you're raising up as leaders, you see the potential in there, you know how to train them up as leaders, but they're not going the way that you know they could, or maybe even giving you a little trouble, or maybe, you know, even a little rebellious or whatever it may be. How do you help people get past that to the level of integrity that you require them to walk in?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to really build relationship, you know, a relationship, like you say, a father-son relationship where you can speak into their lives. Because you can't really bring the correction. I think it was John Maxwell who said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Right.
Yeah. So it's building those relationships with these guys to the point that they actually recognize you really do want the best for them. And I think once they're convinced that you really do care, you really do see their potential, then there's that opportunity to speak into their lives in those areas of their lives. Obviously, you've got to test them. In the ministry, you've got to test their faithfulness. You've got to test their loyalty. And, you know, certainly not all of our leaders are perfect. None of our leaders are perfect.
Oh, yeah.
You know, they've all made some mistakes, you know. But I think that if you've taken that time to build the relationship, father-son relationship, and they know that you care, then you're going to have a whole lot more success when you speak into their lives. They're going to listen, you know, and they're going to know that, you know, this guy really does care for me.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah, that's very, very good. We're talking about a plan to plant churches and strategies to plant churches that really isn't going to work unless we lay down our lives as Christ laid down his. And that's what he said, 3 John 3:16, you know, as he laid down his life for us, we ought to lay down our lives for others. And that's really what's required of us. And, you know, the fact is that we're here because we care about the people across Asia, and we care about you today as partners and fellow believers in wherever you may be in the world, that God has a plan and a purpose that he wants to see fulfilled, a great destiny that he wants to see fulfilled in your life. So we're praying for you and believing that as this program goes out, that God is going to touch your heart with some of the simple ideas, things that you can do to move your life from where it is today into a place where, you know what, I see the light at the end of the tunnel here. I see where I can step up and start becoming a leader, being involved in my local church. So key. All of us need to be spiritual sons and daughters of someone so that we can reproduce the next generation of spiritual sons and daughters.